I stopped answering my phone. I stopped opening my curtains. I told everyone I am fine, but I was not fine at all. Last winter, I lost my job. It was a normal Tuesday. My boss called me into a small room. He looked tired. He said, "We have to let you go." I nodded. I said, "Okay." I tried to smile, but my hands were cold. I walked home slowly. The city was loud, but I felt nothing. People talked, cars moved, lights flashed. Everything was the same, but I was not the same. At home, I put my bag on the floor. I sat on my bed. I did not turn on the lights. The room was quiet. Too quiet. My phone rang that night. It was my friend, Lily. I looked at the screen, but I did not answer. I did not know what to say. I did not want to hear, "It will be okay." I did not believe that. Days passed, then weeks. I stayed in my room. I woke up late. I ate simple food. Sometimes I did not eat at all. I stopped looking in the mirror. I started to talk to myself. I am not good enough. I always fail. No one needs me. The words came again and again. They stayed in my head like noise I could not stop. One night it rained heavily. The sound hit the window again and again. I sat on the floor and hugged my knees. I felt small. I felt tired. I looked around my room. Clothes were on the chair. Books were on the floor. Everything looked messy. Just like me. I whispered, "What should I do now?" No one answered. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely lost. The next night, I could not sleep. The rain stopped, but my mind was still loud. I closed my eyes, but the same thoughts came back. I am not good enough. Then I heard something new. It was soft at first. Very soft. I thought it was just the wind. But then I listened again. It was music, a slow guitar. The sound came from next door. The wall was thin, so I could hear every note. The music was simple. No fast rhythm, no strong beat, just quiet and steady. I sat up. I did not move. I just listened. Something felt different. The noise in my head became smaller. My body felt a little lighter. I did not understand why. It was just a simple sound, but it stayed with me. I moved closer to the wall. I leaned my head against it. The music continued. For the first time in many days, I did not think about my job. I did not think about failure. I just listened. The song ended after a few minutes. The room became quiet again, but this time the silence did not feel heavy. The next evening, I waited. I sat on my bed and looked at the wall. I checked the time again and again. I did not know why I cared so much. Then, at almost the same time, the music started again. I smiled a little. I did not plan to smile, but it just happened. After a few days, I made a small decision. I stood in front of my door. My hand was on the handle. My heart beat fast. I said to myself, "It's just a door." I opened it. I walked to the next door. I stopped. I almost turned back. But then I heard the music again, soft and warm. I raised my hand. Knock, knock. The music stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet again. Then the door opened. A girl stood there. She looked surprised, but kind. She held a guitar in her hands. I looked at her and said, "Hi, I hear your music every night." She smiled. "Do you like music?" I stood there and did not know what to say. My hands felt cold again. I almost said, "Sorry," and left. But she opened the door a little wider. "Come in," she said. I hesitated for a second. Then I stepped inside. Her room was small, but warm. A soft light stood in the corner. There were books on the table and a guitar on the chair. "It's a bit messy," she said and laughed. I looked around and said, "It feels nice." She sat down and picked up her guitar. "I play every night," she said. "It helps me relax." I nodded. I did not tell her that her music helped me too. I felt shy. She looked at me and asked, "Do you play?" I shook my head quickly. "No, I can't." She smiled, not in a big way, but in a calm way. "You can try." "I don't think so," I said. "I'm not good at things like this." She did not argue. She just picked up another guitar from the corner. It looked old, but clean. She held it out to me. "Just hold it," she said. I looked at the guitar. Then I looked at her. I slowly took it. It felt strange in my hands. Too big, too new. "I don't know what to do," I said. "It's okay," she replied. "Just sit." I sat down. She showed me how to place my fingers. My hands were stiff. The strings felt hard. "Press here," she said gently. I tried. The sound was not good. It was sharp and messy. I laughed a little. "See, I told you." She shook her head. "It's your first time." I tried again and again. My fingers started to hurt. I wanted to stop. The old voice in my head came back. "You can't do this. You will fail again." I paused. She noticed. "You can stop if you want," she said. I looked at the guitar. Then I said, "No, I want to try one more time." She nodded. "Okay." I pressed the string again. This time the sound was a little clearer, not perfect, but softer. I played one note, then another. Slowly something changed. I stopped thinking so much. I stopped hearing that voice. There was only the sound, and my hands, and this quiet moment. After a while I looked up. "I forgot the time," I said. She smiled. "That's what music does." I held the guitar a little tighter. For the first time in many weeks, I did not feel lost. The next day, I picked up the guitar again. My fingers still hurt. My sound was still not clean, but I did not stop. I sat by the window and played one note at a time. The sun came in slowly. I had not opened my curtains for many days. The light felt new. In the evening, I went next door again. She opened the door and smiled. "You came back?" I nodded. "I want to learn." She said, "Okay, let's start small." We sat together on the floor. She showed me simple chords. I followed her step by step. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I laughed at myself. "It's okay," she said every time. Days passed. I started to wait for the evening. Not for sleep, but for music. I practiced in the morning. I practiced at night. My fingers became stronger. The pain became smaller. One day I looked in the mirror. I stopped for a second. "I look different," I said quietly. "Not perfect, not happy all the time, but not empty." That night I said to her, "I want to try something." She tilted her head. "What is it?" "I want to make my own song." She smiled, a little surprised. "That's a big step." "I know," I said, "but I want to say something." She nodded. "Then say it." I went back to my room. I sat with my guitar. The room was still small. The floor was still a little messy. But it did not feel heavy anymore. I closed my eyes. I thought about that rainy night. I thought about the silence. I thought about the words in my head. Then I started to play. Slow notes, simple sounds. I whispered. I felt lost. My voice was not strong, but it was real. I played again. I added more words. About fear, about failure, about sitting alone in the dark. I did not stop. The song was not perfect. It was short. The melody was simple, but it was mine. The next evening, I went to her room again. "I want to play something," I said. She sat down and listened. My hands shook a little. My voice was soft, but I kept going. When I finished, the room was quiet. I looked down. "It's not very good," I said. She did not speak right away. Then she said slowly, "Your music is honest." I looked up. She added, "And that makes it beautiful." I felt something warm in my chest. Not loud, not strong, but real. A few days later, I made a small decision. It felt scary, but also right. I held my guitar and stood by the door. Then I went outside. The air was cool, the sky was clear. I walked slowly, like I did on the day I lost my job. But this time I noticed things. I noticed the trees. I noticed the light. I noticed people. I walked to a small park near my building. There were a few people sitting on benches. Some were talking. Some were quiet. I chose a corner. I sat down. My hands felt nervous. My heart beat fast. "What am I doing?" I whispered. For a moment I wanted to leave, but then I remembered her words. "Just try." I took a deep breath. I started to play. The first note was soft, almost too soft. I looked down at my hands and kept going. One note, then another. Slowly, the melody came back to me. My song, I thought. I began to sing. My voice was not perfect, but it was steady. I felt lost. The words came out again. But this time they did not hurt in the same way. They felt lighter. I did not look at the people. I just focused on the music. After a while I heard footsteps. Someone stopped nearby. Then another. I finished the song and slowly looked up. A few people were standing there. No one spoke for a second. Then a man smiled and said, "Your song helped me today." I blinked. "Really?" He nodded. "Yes, thank you." I did not know what to say. I just smiled. A small, real smile. More people sat down. Someone asked, "Can you play another one?" I laughed softly. "I only know a few." "That's okay," they said. So I played again. The sun went down slowly. The light became warm and soft. The park felt calm, and I did not feel alone. That night I walked back home with my guitar. The street was still the same. The city was still loud. Life was still not perfect. But I was different. I stopped in front of my door. I looked at my hands. "These hands made something," I said quietly. Then I smiled. "Music saved me," I whispered. "And maybe I can save someone too."